Hello, welcome back. Today I will speak about Galactica. And Galactica is a collection of 11 different grimoires that I have written, and 10 of them are inspired by the book of King Solomon, Ars Goetia, where King Solomon presents the 72 spirits of the Ars Goetia, and he offers a presentation for each one of them. Of course, it is a very old book, a very famous book that somehow inspired my work as well, and I have written grimoires on some of those spirits as well. I will continue to write on the other spirits as well. Well, my wish and my will is to write grimoire for each one of them, so 72 different grimoires, and I have written until now 10. In this collection we have, as I said, well, it is a very interesting subject. Of course, each character, each book I have written is very different, is very unique, does have different thematics, of course, very different character that I have tried to understand. I have meditated on the thematic, I have had visions, I had dreams, I had lucid dreaming, I had different ways that that knowledge reached me, in different ways that I was able to interpret it in a form that it is recognizable and it is readable for others as well. That's why I would say my grimoires, my books, are literally works inspired by the book of King Solomon, in the same time with my own interpretation, with my own work on the thematic. As I've said, it is not something I have taken and translated it the same. It is something that I have enriched it, or I have given my own perspective, my own understanding, my own knowledge, my own abilities, and so on and so forth. So it is something unique. That's why, of course, I love my grimoires, and I do recommend my grimoires to other people as well. And Galactica, as I've said, is a collection, volume 1. I will continue to write other grimoires, and I will publish them under the name Galactica as volume 2. And I have spoken on each recording specific for each grimoire that I have managed to speak about. So, well, the 10 different male characters. And the 11 grimoire that I have written has no connection with the book of King Solomon. It's the grimoire of Lilith. And to say, well, but Lilith is an older origin, or the oldest origin of all of them. And to say, well, Lilith can be seen almost as their mother, not physical mother. We say, well, in the spiritual world, the rules that we apply as humans do not express everything. It's not that they do not work, it's just not, it's almost like a different wave. It's a different type of understanding that one has to acquire. Of course, it all depends how far one is on the spiritual or that type of occult wisdom, or whatever word we choose to express that, because even that is very limiting, no? And I say, well, the spirits, so when we think about a spirit, what characteristics we think about, and of course in all of them the thematic of freedom is very important. That's why I said there are no limiting beliefs as humans have. So, well, there is a certain seriousness, a certain strictness, a certain way, that the spirit, I'll say, function as well. And so, well, if we think from our human understanding, it is very limiting, and it is not, not enabling us to get to that information, or to get to that understanding. So, well, we have to open our consciousness and go on a higher elevating. Also, almost like taking an elevator and going to the highest floor, And so, well, that of course creates already something else. One is able to see, feel, think, require, and so on and so forth, different type of knowledge. But say, well, what type of floor are we? Are we on the 40th floor? Are we on the 60th floor? and then so on and so forth. It's not necessarily, it's just an example. But to say, well, the grimoire of Lilith, it is all the origin. Lilith is oldest, no? Say, well, the only female character from all the grimoires. And that, of course, speaks very much about the power of Lilith. That speaks very much about who Lilith is and what her powers are. And the male characters of the grimoires, of course, they are very, different. They all are supernatural. They all have supernatural abilities. They are more than human, no? They do have that part of human, and they know what human represents, and they understand that human part very well, even more than us. But they function, and they require, and they have different powers, different abilities in the same time. And say, one has to understand, one not allowed to reach them with the limiting beliefs, how one can prepare for that type of knowledge, how one can meditate on that subject, or how one can understand the character even better, no? So and say, my work is fiction. My work is literally work. In the same time, of course, I have touched on those elements as well to be able to represent that character in my book in a correct way, or the way I was able to phantom, almost, to use my imaginary world, my imaginary skills, my imaginary creative world, to be able to touch on subjects that are so far away, that are covered in the darkness or the blackness of that not knowing, unreachable, unrecognizable, unheard, unspoken, all these things, no? So how you reach in the darkness of that abyss, let's speak it like that, no? And how one finds meaning, how can one trains the eye, trains the spirit to be able to see through those things, no? And say, not only to see, but to acknowledge, to understand at that high level of that happening, of that source of knowledge or source of wisdom. To say, it is an honor. It is not to say, I am using anyone in that moment of finding or wanting to reach something. It is something I am giving to that spirit, or something that I am reaching beyond, no? But I am not using the spirit for any personal gain. It is not a transaction. It is nothing material about it. So the honor is to represent that character. So if I simply take it as a character in my book, of course I still want to give the character, to give the spirit the honor of his being. That's why I think my books are very special, because I work in many different aspects of that, say, contact, or say, that element of what the spirit has for me, or what I can offer him as well, no? So what can I offer that is dignifying, of course, no? And say, it is my love, it is my time, it is my own understanding, it is my fear, maybe sometimes, or it can be many different things, no? To say, maybe exactly that fear pushed me in finding something, or maybe exactly that me not being able to understand push me to be able to understand. So it's almost to say, we see how the non, that part of the non, becomes a yes, no? Say, that the change between those aspects as well, because they do change, no? So say, the work, my work as a writer, especially on the thematic of grimoires, has been very deep, has been almost like an excavating type of knowledge. And so, it may seem simple, that I say, ideas come to me, visions come to me, I'm able to see, I'm able to understand. But that image too creates something inside me that, almost like a will to understand, because it is not given. It's not to say I see something and I understand it immediately, It is a search for me as well. And that search, that interest, and that curiosity, or that element of the non aspect, creates something that makes me move forward and create that book, or be able to move forward and understand that character even more. I say, well, I do not give up, no? I say, well, I don't understand this, or I try to find the information on this, or I try to work on this, or I move through this, and so on and so forth, no? So the grimoires say they all carry that will and power, and that's what I had to give to be able to write them. They say, well, that will and power, that not giving up, that aspect of say, no, I trust what my eyes see, I trust what my heart feels, or I trust what my spirit leads me to. That it is a sort of trust, no? It's a form of honor as well for me as a writer. That, of course, I give myself, and I give to my characters or to my subjects, and say, well, I don't simplify things just to simplify them, no? I say, well, I have deeper understanding of the thematic, and I do not necessarily have to explain it to anyone. I say, well, I like to leave things happen natural. I like things to be explained for that person or for that subject naturally. It is nothing to say, well, if my wave of understanding moves at a certain level, I'm not going to make it higher or lower for anyone. Say, well, those who are reached by that wave in the place where I find myself, that's the correct one. I'm not going to change that part, no? So I move at my own speed, or I move at my own understanding, no? So it's almost to say things are revealed gradually. Things are given sometimes, sometimes not. And if things are given, there is a necessarily need of some type of understanding. So why it was given to me, because I am able to understand it, because I am able to create something with it, because I am curious enough to search, to move further on, beyond. No, there's the element of the beyond. There's the element of, I say, until here, and I say no, there is more. The place does not, there is no limit, as I've said, no? So it is something that moves in that space of the ether. It is something that moves on that space of the, how you say, almost like a specific thing that happened in nature that I can relate to a character, or something that happens around me that I understand immediately who it is, or what is about, what is the thematic, no? To say I am never in total blackness, not understanding nothing, no? There's always some type of understanding that one can almost say ride on, no? Take the horse and then move through other elements that can bring more meaning, and more things are shown, and I am able to create a story as well. So the Grimoire of Lilith that I want to speak about tonight, it is part of my first volume of Galactica. As I've said, only female character. At the same time, Lilith is a very important character. It's a very important grimoire. It's a very beautiful grimoire. And so, well, whoever wants to know more about Lilith and connect to that aspect of Lilith, or that energetically elements that one can find that represent Lilith are very much Lilith. So, well, even ways that Lilith communicate with the outer world, no? So, well, we find ourselves in the outer world, no? So, well, we have our inner world, no? We carry inside us, and when we are in the world, we are in the outer world. And so, well, the spirits too are part of that outer world, no? So they're able to connect with one in that outer world, or in the inner world as well, if it is almost like a sacred union, or some type of sacred agreement as well for that, no? So the Grimoire of Lilith speaks very much about something very old, very ancient, and at the same time that power of Lilith that has won over centuries and centuries of oblivion, almost to say, you know, so, well, the true power never dies, and Lilith is proof of that, to say, well, no matter what happened in history, no matter how strong oblivion is, or how many limits appearing in the story of Lilith. Lilith is victorious. That's the message of Lilith, to say no matter what happens in the outer world, the inner world is the strongest. To say, well, the inner world of Lilith is extremely strong, and her elements always come through in the outer world as well. And I have a beautiful playlist that I have created for Lilith, where I speak about those elements in detail, so one can understand that energetical chord that Lilith is shown, or she shows to us. Say, well, Lilith has been always a part of that, no? So the Lilith has, as I said, a very specific type of power, a very specific type of energy as well, that one can understand and can meditate as well by your own abilities to understand the thematic of Lilith. At the same time, of course, the Grimoire of Lilith does offer some new understandings, or to say my own understanding about the thematic of Lilith. In the same time, the entire grimoire is made for Lilith. It's made for Lilith to express herself. It's made for Lilith to tell us the things that she wanted to tell us, the things that she wanted to express now in her own grimoire. Say, well, it is her own grimoire that I have written for her, for that part of Lilith, to say, well, if she has been silenced, the voice of Lilith is here again, and was always here again, she was always around, and to say, well, now we're able to understand more of that appearance of Lilith, even in the moments in the past where we were not aware that she is around, or she is teaching or showing us something. But now that we know, now we can understand and go back in time, in the past, in the memory, and connect with Lilith and see her beauty and see her glory and see that element of that good part of Lilith, that what she gives, that what she offers. In the same time, as I've said, Lilith is not a teacher. Lilith does not have to give us anything. And to say, well, it is a joy of her soul, it is a joy of her spirit as well. There is a connection that we humans do have very strong with Lilith, and that connection cannot be destroyed, cannot be taken away, never. So it's that power of Lilith, or that power of God. Say, it is part of that, of course. And they say, well, Lilith does know this very much. It is not, she does not want recognition. It is never about that. To say, well, that human ego that we have does not apply to those spirits or to these elements. As I've said, one has to have a higher understanding first and foremost. So because we speak of things that are very sacred, and to say, well, they appear in our profane world, in the normal world, but are sacred and should be seen at that level and valued at that level and understood and felt at that level of that sacredness, that character, or that part of that, part of history, or whoever that character is or represents, is able to be honored and valued and seen at that high value that it is, And then we can also say, open our arms to that type of understanding. But something has to be given, and that is the part of the honor. It is the part of the gratitude. It is that part of the self that does not doubt himself, that sits in the middle and say, does not matter if the boat moves left and right. My goal is one. My journey is one. My boat moves and floats on the water, and I go where I want it to be. And say, it is that part, of that I, and say, well, spirits are teaching us to as well, to say, if they understand what humans are and how humans feel and how humans think, or how humans, strength or our abilities in the same time, say, well, there is always a connection between humans and spirit. There is does not exist that there is no connection. If some are able to see it or understand it, very good. If some not, or do not wish to understand it, there's another thing, But the spirit, or that element of that sacred part of the world, it is always there, and it is sometimes inviting. It is someone, sometimes almost like a whisper in that silence, where is no one there, just you, or just somebody, and you hear that element of something calling you in, something calling you to a place, something calling you to some type of understanding as well, And to say, well, one has to be brave, one has to be chosen for that element as well, You say, well, the one that receives is that one that gives as well, You say, well, if I don't want to give, I don't want to go, I will not receive that type of knowledge. So it is a very, I would say, something that has to be based on gratitude, on that honor between that element. To say, well, why humans see themselves so separate from the spirit world when we are part of that, even very strongly part of that, And say, well, it speaks too about, to say, how we choose to see ourselves as humans, to say, is that all that there is? That's all that makes a human? What do you believe? What makes a human? You say, are we spirit? Are we spirit or not? You say, well, of course we are spirit. You say, why are we so strange when I speak, ask at the spirits? We say, we are too spirits. There are different types of spirits, and we are two humans too have that part. It's nothing strange. It's nothing weird. It's nothing scary about it, Saying even that needs some type of, say, well, if you move through this world and then you hear scare, fear, and say, well, it is part of that element that have been taught to scare us. It is something that others have taught us to fear. But they say, do you fear it? Are you really scared of it? And if the answer is yes for the moment, it means that the exercise has to be stopped in that moment, and maybe can be taken in another time when you will feel, or you will be prepared. It is not for everyone, as I've said. It is not for everyone. It's not given to everyone. It is not seen or acknowledged by everyone. It is not, say, well, it is a part, Say, well, there are so many things that move through our world, and there are so many things that come together, and say, well, we humans sometimes we experience this world as in a dream. Our eyes are open, but we are not able necessarily to look, or we don't want in that moment. So there is some type of observation. It is the work of a scientist as well, and being able to observe all those little differences in the environment, be able to receive that form of communication and that form of knowledge as well. Everything speaks, everything communicates, everything, every image, everything that you find outside is telling you something. So I say, well, everyone thinks everything is so closed. Actually, everything is so open, And that part of us that is able to find meaning and find a source of knowledge that is true, that is real in those elements, is something very rewarding, because not everyone can do it, and it is a part that is celebrated on that part of the spirit, that's able to communicate something beyond, something that has been almost kept a secret for centuries, for ages. Maybe there are things we don't know that will be extremely helpful for us in the future. Maybe spirits have extreme knowledge, extreme a lot of gifts, a lot of things that we should know, that we should take in consideration, that we should be able to think about and not be scared about. So I say, well, Lilith is teaching all this. So say, well, there is no gift, there is no reward. In the same time, if the reward is there, if one is not able to see it, it will feel like there is no reward. It will feel like there is nothing. It's just something normal, like nothing is special about it, nothing unique. It's just nothing, it's just something, But if one is able to see, understand, and feel, and elevate that element, that one feels as normal, one is able then to see that part of that supernatural, extraordinary elements of the spirit world and how they function and how they work. And say, well, why are we interested only in the seen? Why are we not interested in the unseen? You say, well, I'm outside somewhere and I hear strange sounds in the woods, strange birds making sounds. Someone say, well, Lilith is represented by the screeching, by the element of something unpleasant, scary, the screeching of the owl, or some sounds in the forest that seems you don't know what it is. That is element of Lilith, That's how Lilith works. And say, well, maybe some will choose to not go in the forest, or one will hear it and not understand that there's element of Lilith as well. So, well, what does it say? What does it communicate? What message it gives you in that moment? Why are you hearing that? What feelings what feeling, in that moment? What is your thought? What is your emotional feeling? What exactly is happening? Can be many different things, no? Maybe that moment feels very silent. Maybe that moment feels very deep. Maybe it feels very scary. Maybe it feels exciting, There's different elements that come with that representation of it as well. So say, well, Lilith, as I've said, is free. We say Lilith is her expression of freedom. She does not want you to necessarily feel something. It is not her job what you feel and what you see and what you think. She is Lilith. Lilith moves freely for where she wants. She does whatever she wants. And say she does not show herself. Of course, she makes her appearance acknowledged or present at a certain time for a certain moment, very shortly, and then again she is away. That's the element of the spirit of Lilith. Say, well, she is there, but she's not there. She appears and then she disappears. She shows you something, then not. It is for a short time. It is for a short minute. And I had experience like that when I was very little, when I was a child. And so, well, Lilith had me in her care since then. And I did things that no one else did. And so, well, because it was me, I am too part of that, Say, we do not take away from us what is ours. And we do not give from us what is not ours as well, We say, well, one has to be a good child. One has to be a good human. One has to do good. One has to be good. And it's not about to say, well, the outer part of the world, it is of my inner journey. It is about my inner expectation. It's about my inner discovery. It is about my inner experience. It's about my inner. That's very much Lilith. Very much. So, well, her powers cannot be discussed. That's what we talk about Lilith. The Grimoire of Lilith has that power. There's no comparison to none of them. So, well, that's always the element of uniqueness. It's surrounding Lilith always. There is no one like Lilith. There will never be one like Lilith. Lilith is Lilith. There is no more. There is no necessarily adding to that subject. And say, well, her power, the power of Lilith, it is beyond the power of those other spirits. So, well, Lilith is number one. One has to understand the type of knowledge and wisdom that Lilith carries. It is something extraordinary. It is something supernatural. It is something extremely beautiful. I do recommend any book on Lilith, any subject on Lilith, and so, well, even my grimoire on Lilith, to say, well, I believe it's the best. I do believe my grimoire on Lilith is very special. I do have a very deep and clear understanding of who Lilith is. It's not about the words I'm using. It's a feeling that I'm trying to express, and I have that feeling in my heart, and say, well, Lilith is very special. And I say, well, I cannot write a book about Lilith if I do not understand that about her. I cannot even touch upon her subject if I was not worthy for her subject as well. I say, I always give myself back what is earned to me, and it will always be that. Amen. No? So I say, Lilith is that power, and say, is that identifying power of oneself, but not to only identify it as one. Say, well, what is one? What is self? What is all this? No. say it always, they say, well, the journey always requires a few steps forward. The journey always requires some steps forward or backward, does not matter, left and right, no? It is that personification, that element of me, no? It's that element of Lilith that is represented in that moment. It is a revelation. It is unique. It is special. It will always be special and unique when it comes to Lilith. So all those elements that I have spoken in the playlist of Lilith, if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description box below, where I speak in a very, so to say, slow, because nothing rushes me. Galactica is a little bit more, there are different grimoires in one, but the playlist of Lilith is just for Lilith. That's why it makes it more special, where I speak all the elements of Lilith that appear in many different ways, that one can recognize Lilith, that one can connect to Lilith, that one knows, that walks on Lilith's territory when he or she is there. I say, well, it's like, you know, what are we able to see when we are somewhere? What are we able to see? Are those eyes just able to see just the physical world, or can we see something more than that? Can we feel something more than it is presented in that moment, just as an image, just as a feeling? How deep one can go into feeling those elements, no? So that it moves through you, that comes back to you, that teaches you something, that elevates you, that gives you something unique and beautiful. And it is that part of ours to recognize those beautiful elements that Lilith presents to us, that Lilith gives us. So it is a part of Lilith that is extremely giving, especially for those those parts that she feels that need her mostly. It is very giving, very, very loving, at the same time very strong and very powerful. To say Lilith does not play around. Lilith is extremely serious. It is part of her work, of her mission. It is part that it is who she is. It is part of her creation. It is a necessarily part of history as well, no? Say Lilith combine many elements together. It is that part, no? That combination of different elements we see in the nature, you know, everything combined, everything moving together, living together, existing together, experience together, giving something together, no? So, to say that those elements of Lilith are extremely eye-opening. In the same time, it does create almost like a seed of the unknown. Someone say she plants that part of the unknown. It is something unknown. It is a seed of the unknown that waits to be known, that waits to be experienced or discovered or felt or expressed, or whatever, you know, way of experiencing those elements come to life as well. And say, well, of course all the other grimoires are interesting, of course, and I will never to say, well, my work, speaking about my books, it's very much a comparison type of work. Even if I know and they know, I am not comparing them. I am finding meaning in each one, because there is no comparison between the grimoires or between the different characters. It will be rude of me, as I've said. It is a rude type of work that I have to do, no, to express those elements in comparison to others. We say, well, they are that unique and special for me, no? It's almost like when you have 10 children and I start to compare with, like, the first one has this, but the second one, not really, and the third one, you know, it is rude. But it is the work. I do this to understand, to express to others as well, that type of understanding, or, you know, that type of comparison work. It's a comparative work. It is a simply comparative work. But through that comparative work, through those elements that yes or no fits, yes, all those nuances, one is able to find a deeper meaning and a deeper understanding on the thematic as well. So, I think Lilith, say, it is, if I say, nothing scary. It is a very strong feminine power. Lilith is very feminine. I say, well, if we understand femininity in a different way, then we are wrong, because Lilith represents the true femininity. And so, well, if she seems too rude and too direct or too out there, because it's like, well, if she's feminine, she should be sweet. She should stay at her place. She should not move. She should just smile a few times, close her eyes gently and look to the left and say, well, no. Lilith is the representation of true feminine form, and what that means, that's why I say, well, she was silenced for a reason. And I say, well, may I ask for what reason was she silenced? I say, well, it is part of who she is, no? I say, Lilith knows that silence works for her. They say, well, it is that element to say, well, what do we understand when we say the word Lilith, when we speak her word, when we speak her name? What does Lilith represent? Who is she? Who is Lilith? What is she here for? What does she teach us? Who is Lilith? That's a very beautiful question that one can find answers if one wants to find answers. No? They say, well, it is a relation that is based on respect, and say, well, nothing is necessary, nothing is forced, nothing has to happen. There is no reason. There is no explanation. That is very much part of Lilith as well. They say, well, Lilith does not work through logic. Logic is, they say, well, she conquered that. It is not element. It is something beyond, higher than logic. It is moves on the different plane of understanding. Yeah. So several elements of Lilith, one can discuss in detail, and I will discuss in the playlist of Lilith. I say I will continue, of course, my playlist to always record new recordings with new understanding on the thematic, and of course on Lilith is my pleasure always, because Lilith is and always will be for me, so well, as a character base, as a thematic, or all the different characters, number one, because she deserves to be number one. And I do recommend the Grimoire of Lilith, as said, or if you want to listen as well to the other playlist of Lilith, I do find them very enriching and very beautiful as well, where I speak about the representation of Lilith through history, through what we know about her, and what type of new understanding we can get from there as well. Well, it is about our own understanding, on the thematic. And so more and more one learns, and so one sees that element and say, well, of course there are historical facts, of course there are historical books, of course one can read, one can this and that, no? But the true knowledge comes when you create it, when you come to new ideas, to new acknowledgements, to new feeling, to new understanding on the thematic, that one is able to bring that further on. And I will bring that further on with different insights and different aspects, because I do find Lilith extremely interesting, intriguing, beautiful, powerful. And so, well, one can learn a lot from Lilith. And so, well, she has her own unique ways to teach, or her own unique ways to show herself in that meaning, the way how she wants to show or represent herself, no? Sometimes she appears, sometimes she does not appear. Sometimes she shows herself or lets herself known through a sound or through a different element that appears in nature. So one can find entirely landscapes that are connected to Lilith. So the landscapes, what we find outside, is all very much connected to Lilith. It is all her domain, but there are certain landscapes that is very much, one can definitely feel Lilith, one can definitely see her in those elements that represent that landscape very much so. So of course it's interesting to know about those qualities and know about those elements, and one can understand and be able to experience that as well. Thank you so much for listening. I will continue another time and speak about Lilith. As I've said, there is the Grimoire of Lilith. If you want to read, have the book for yourself, there's a link in the description box below where brings you to the book of Lilith, and then you find the playlist of Lilith as well, where I will add new subjects or new thematics on Lilith, and you can hear the recordings that I already have done until now. Thank you so much for listening. I will continue another time. Bye.